If you look at the average guy over 30, the dad bod or big belly is never missing. But where does it come from? Usually people divide breathing into two main types, chest breathing and diaphragmatic breathing. Chest breathing is normally presented as the wrong one because it uses the accessory muscles to breathe and not the diaphragm. A chest breather is using, for example, the trapezius muscles to breathe by raising the shoulders and the upper structure. Diaphragmatic breathing, on the other hand, is usually presented as the right one, but is taught in the way where the belly should protrude at the front when you breathe in. But I would say both are wrong. Posture is the result of your coordination of movement over time. And if every time you breathe in, you push your belly out, then over time you build a posture with the belly forward and out. Is that something we want? No way. I do not want to look like Homer Simpson when I'm 50 years old, and I hope you do not either. So the real issue is not whether you breathe in with the chest or with the belly. The real issue is pressure, posture and coordination of movement. To understand that, we first have to simplify the body. F.M. Alexander said the torso is like an oblong rubber bag. With torso, we mean the whole body minus the neck, head and limbs. For this explanation, we can divide the torso into three parts. Imagine the pelvis as a bowl containing the lower part. You can even imagine a bowl with water in it, not allowing the object to fall forward at the front. So we lift the bowl at the front and down at the back, the pelvis containing the hydrostatic bag. Above, we have the oblong rubber bag, divided by the diaphragm in the middle into two parts. Below, the core containing many organs, and above, the thorax containing, among other things, the lungs. You can look at the core as a box. On top, you have the diaphragm, on the bottom the pelvic floor, at the front the abdominal wall, at the back the strong back muscles, and at the sides the obliques. Basically, some muscles are working too much while others are sleeping. Usually the back muscles are overworking, the pelvic floor muscles are also way too tight, and the muscles that are sleeping are the diaphragm, the abdomen and the obliques. The back muscles are too tight in quite every person, so they pull the top of the ribcage down at the back and the pelvis up at the back. To bring our body into the position of mechanical advantage, we need to counter that with a simultaneous rotation of the thorax and pelvis, so the back is not shortened and the pelvis can work as a proper container. The pelvic floor is also often misunderstood. It does not need more training, it needs more stretching tension. What most people do not know is that the pelvic floor muscles are directly or indirectly connected to the legs by the greater trochanter. And in the average person, these muscles are almost always too short, so the trochanter, the spot that most of this is connected with, gets pulled back and inward. You can spot that when a person is standing with the feet pointing outwards. So the solution is not to do random pelvic floor exercises like Kegels, etc. But it's the pelvis and legs relationship that counts. For getting more support from the pelvis and legs relationship, we need to add the new movement of directing the trochanter forward and up. By organizing the movements of the pelvis, legs and ribcage together, we can finally close the front, so that the pelvis can work properly as a bowl or container, the abdomen can contain, and the ribcage lifts and not collapse. The whole back is supported well below with a rigid object, the pelvis. Above, it's supported by another rigid cavity, the ribs, but the part in the middle is not really supported. At the back, you have the spine with the muscles and fascia that do not have the support a rigid bone would have. And at the front, there is nothing rigid. So we need a better system. And here we can borrow our remarkable trick from the octopus. He is using a system called hydrostatic system. An octopus has no bones, yet it can create firmness and support exactly where it wants to direct the pressure with its usually soft body. In simple terms, it creates bones where it wants to have them. The idea is simple. Instead of relying on a slack abdominal wall at the front, the body can create support with pressure inside the soft back to get it firm and supportive. F.M. Alexander said that the lower part of the thorax should be 3 inches smaller than above the armpit line. If that is the case, we can live a great life without restrictions and problems, but for the majority of the Western civilized population, that is not the case. In most people, the pressure relationship is wrong. The upper cavity is lowered with too much pressure, and the belly below is protruding because there is not enough abdominal pressure directed back in, so the pressure is not being contained and the abdomen pushes outward instead. So the goal is to swap the pressures on the two cavities. That means more organized pressure in the abdomen and less unnecessary pressure in the thorax. Now let us look at how the diaphragm should really work. You can think about the diaphragm as a strong elastic dome over the hydrostatic bag, the core, with the front attached higher at the lower front ribs and the back lower at the lumbar spine. The lungs are tightly attached to it through the fascial membrane. When you breathe in, the diaphragm contracts and goes down. If the abdomen is not static, the diaphragm goes down without resistance, and the abdomen gets pushed out on every in-breath. But if the abdomen and obliques are organized so that the diaphragm cannot simply push the belly out, then the whole ribcage will be pushed up instead as downward pressure is applied against resistance. And if the ribcage gets pushed up, the size of the upper cavity gets bigger. That means the pressure in the upper cavity gets lower. Because the atmospheric pressure outside of the body is now greater than the pressure inside, air flows into the lungs by itself. As an added bonus, the upward lift also supports the whole upper body because it's stretching the fascia at the back even more. So by creating more pressure in the abdomen, you decrease the pressure in the thorax. That equals more air and less effort. That is the key principle. So it's not enough to simply say, use the diaphragm. For the diaphragm to work properly, it must work against an organized abdomen, organized obliques, and a pelvis that functions as a proper container. You want pressure to increase, but in the right way. For someone who already has too much pressure in the wrong place, this may feel impossible in the beginning. That is why it helps to bring in more breaths while keeping the structure organized correctly. So pressure increases through proper containment and not by simply pushing the belly out. A useful exercise here is fractionated breathing, taking a series of small breaths even after you feel you have reached full capacity to train the diaphragm further. But first, the pelvis and ribcage need to be in the right position, and use the camera to look at the movement on the whole body. We want to work in details, not just think and feel we are doing the right thing. We take 20 to 22,000 breaths per day, so please use them in the right way. If you want to learn more about the technique, visit my website postureispower.com, and if you would like help applying it to yourself, you can also book a one-on-one lesson in the initial Alexander technique with me via Zoom. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.